online based on a certain character of like a browser acting a certain way because of probably their location or what maybe has been agreed on by government or what has been agreed on by probably a corporation to be able to regulate. So for example, you are going to access, say, Facebook, and you don't meet or you don't you're not able to read the Facebook website web page, but what you're meeting is a certain kind of Facebook that gives you only content that has been agreed by a certain a certain corporation that you can see it. So you've been hearing the example of the Great Firewall from China. You've been seeing how it filters information so that people are able to reach certain content only online. And you're thinking that, okay, first, are people's privacy, or people's right to information being breached? Are people able to look for content that they need? Are they able to access content like they want to, right? So from this picture, let's look at what we have to do to solve my dilemma, which is the bigger one of access and connectivity and making sure that everybody reaches content that they have to reach, right? So looking at the angle, you want to start from that point about data cooperation and making sure that all of us are aligned towards a common goal. Now, the UN has a plan for data cooperation, and it involves many things that are key issues to it. But very, very paramount in those key areas is the issue of capacity building and awareness creation, leading to inclusion. Inclusion that ensures that we leave no one behind. And in leaving no one behind, we want to make sure that people aren't left out because there's this giant fragment that splinters the internet into different areas and able to access certain information like people in different parts of the world would access. How do we solve this? How do we solve this as Africans? First, are we aware? What are the standards or principles that probably we've agreed on as even an African continent or even nations in Africa? What is it that is priority for us currently when we talk about our digital economy and data transformation? How are we able to see maybe conversations or documents that have gone in the past, what has been agreed and what our stance are clearly, right? Because in essence, we are part of this giant network and we are benefiting in many ways when it comes to, since the surge of the pandemic, we saw healthcare, we saw how it is important that we even had details of numbers and where the cases had reached and all of that. Imagine we weren't able to access those numbers. It means that the African continent would have been in the dark and we do not know what will be happening. We will not know what the World Health Organization has as interventions for what was going on with the pandemic. So for me, I think one way we can go is to first know what our stance are as Africans, what documents exist, what conversations have gone on, what policy probably has been discussed, and see specifically in the key areas for our digital cooperation, which ones we think are also priority or paramount that we can kickstart with. So that in essence, we'll be solving that this very big bridge that we want to cross when it comes to things being divided based on even governmental lines. And probably in our second submission, we want to go deeper to see the surge of shutdowns even on the African continent. And that is also another way we look at how people are slowly being detached from what it is that they're able to use to maximize their daily activities and the work they do. So from my point of view, I think that is where we should start from. We are able to solve this dilemma by awareness, by capacity building, and our priority when it comes to leaving no one behind.
Thank you very much, Lily. It's key that you stated things about local content, because local content is important. When you have, maybe when I have a Swahili-based internet at home, it's very easy for me to see representation and be included because I'm forced to translate from Swahili to English and back and forth. My dilemma is that why haven't we localized this? We want to localize connectivity, we want to localize everything, but this is not quite local in its sense when you don't have local content. And the threat comes of content moderation. Content moderation is passed as a policy perspective to control. But who? When we ask ourselves, who owns the internet? It's us, right? So all the fragmentation, all the content moderation, it's us. Who are the policy? They're all here at the IGF. Who are the content creators? But in the end, we are caught in a place where we're just consumers of content in a controlled application where we are not creators of this change. So my proposal is there is a way we could localize internet using local infrastructure and language that's actually owned by the people. That's how you boost it. You need a lot of inclusion and representation that's owned by the people. And this goes hand in hand with what you said. digital literacy. Because in the end, digital institutions have to be built by us. It has to be very personal, beginning with personal institutions. Because if I become a leader today and I want to use content moderation to suppress my people, then what? What will people do if they're not aware of the right ways to go? So I would like to pivot to Thoko. Thoko, welcome. Out of all the discussion, just feel free to consume it and give your thoughts.
I think at the core of this discussion, we're forgetting one thing, that the organizations, the companies that we're talking about, we live in a profit-driven world. We live in a highly unequal society. We're talking about the top echelons. But I think the most important to note is that through all this, we're driven by capital, and it's important to remain strategic in driving digital change, right? When enforcing digital transformation strategies, that is only but a smaller segment of a larger conversation that needs to be had around digital use and sustainable inclusion and sustainable transformation, right? So that's rapid economic development, exponential technology, advanced technologies. When we're looking at that conversation, we're talking at a capital-driven agenda. And we're not going to stop the prerogative of those capital service providers. What we are able to do, as you say, is hone in on the services that we use as a community and allow inclusive digital use of those services, and allow for our community to set the tone in the policy, in the rights of users, in the access, in their ability to decline certain rights and regulations, those that they decide are not tenable to them. It's also extremely important to note the changes. Lily mentioned the fragmentation of the internet and what that actually means. And, looking at a transferable future, we have to look at how that impacts our society. We are moving faster towards an emotionally connected internet, a technology-driven society where human capacity for brain development, neuroscientific development is closer now more than ever to technological computational thinking, and where our daily operations are now more intrinsically linked to electronic hardware devices than ever before, to the cloud than ever before. We are a generation that has a responsibility now to take on those who are not on board, to allow for sustainable, inclusive innovation, right? And it's our responsibility to carry the bastions of this change, A, with the prerogative of including all, B, with the prerogative of allowing all people to be able to access and to protect these entities that we have developed. If we're looking at a present where a 3-year-old is able to pick up a smart device, upload games, go online, watch videos using platforms, and engage with a myriad of software and hardware technologies without any assistance, we have got to be so responsible with the content that they engage with, right? That we engage with, that we upload. And that means our cybersecurity indexes have to be heightened to protect both the individuals, heightened to protect the consumers, heightened to protect the service providers, and all who have a responsibility. I had a conversation with a CEO the other day who was in a very complex digital dilemma. What had happened was, as an internet service provider, he got a call from the Special Investigations Unit saying, we have identified a cyber criminal who is using your network to perpetuate the crime, and we require you to provide us with their personal details. he as a CEO has signed a POPI waiver. His client has signed over certain rights and provided him with his personal information in order to use the service. They have an agreement that this information is not going to be shared with any other bodies, not for marketing purposes, not for any other data aggregations. As a CEO, he has a responsibility to make that decision. He inquires to say, you know what, I'm not going to do that until you tell me what your charge is. Turns out there's a child pornography ring running on the server, on the service provided. So at that point, we as he had a decision to make, to say, I'm going to allow you to do this. They did find the server, they did find the source of the child pornography distribution, and the perpetrator was arrested. In this sense, it's very, very complicated, because we are in the position of not only sharing our personal information, but having our personal information shared.
Thank you, Thoko. That's a great point that you raised. We see that there's a big problem in terms of cybersecurity, which is rather really personal to the context of each of our governments and how we deal with community. So for all of us online, please tell us in the comment section, what is your African digital dilemma, or what is your digital dilemma? We are joined by Samaila. Samaila is a cyber security professional who will build on what Thoko has said in how we can safeguard Africa so we can have a way to mitigate our dilemmas. Samaila, please.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Hassan, for this session. Unfortunately, I couldn't hear the initial discussion, but I guess picking up from what Lily and Tuko have said, I can just add a bit. So when we look at this, the dilemma, or Africa's digital dilemma, there are several angles to it, and I'm happy some have been highlighted. We're looking at the privacy, like Toko just mentioned, and people's rights, people's digital rights, which we are now considering as human rights as well. We're also looking at the room for abuse of power. You know, we're in a continent where some regulations are designed with certain, will I say, loopholes or vagueness that allows people in power, or people who design those regulations, to abuse them, if I may put it that way. And so, like Toko mentioned, you know, if you're going to request for certain information about your customers, then law enforcement need to have warrants. You know, they have to have like a reason why they need to get that information and things like that. But we're in a continent. I'm speaking, I'm generalizing here. It's not always going to be the case. But yeah, we're in a continent where a lot of people who are in positions of power tend to abuse that power for personal benefit. So that's one dilemma. We've seen situations where there's some censorship, you know, because of one personal hurt or ideological difference or political difference even. We've seen where internet access has been cut off or has been limited. We've seen websites being attacked because they are providing certain information that is implicating certain politicians, for instance. We've seen access to certain platforms being denied as well, in terms of Twitter in a certain country in West Africa recently. And many other issues we've seen like that. So, and these issues stem, or rather, they spread to affect the masses, the users, the consumers of the internet, because this now means that you're exposed to misinformation or disinformation, where your reality is twisted, you know, to shape people's thinking and to deceive people, if I use that word. So these are some of the issues that we're facing. And then there's the issue of infrastructure, right? So you and Lily have highlighted the need for us to have our local content and our local infrastructure. But we also have to look at it from the angle of expertise. So what is the percentage, or how wide is the pool of experts in Africa? You know, we have people that are excellent, but what is the quantity of those people? Because you can't have the same 10 people running a million projects across across the country or across the continent. So there's that issue. So it means that we have to also look at the education system. What quality of graduates are we producing? Are the skills graduates are learning in schools relevant to today's problems? Can they solve today's problems as regards to technology, infrastructure, and things like that? And lastly, there's the issue or the dilemma of funding. So there's a lot of infrastructure deficit when it comes to telecommunications and internet service provision. And so if you look at the cost of fiber optic cables and laying it and those kind of infrastructure, it's quite expensive, and not many people who are in remote areas would be able to afford if the service providers lay those cables and give them a charge. So these are some of the dilemmas I feel need to be looked into, and I hope that with this session we can come up with some useful directives. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you very much for that. It's important what you said. Education is the most powerful tool to change the world. I'm quoting Mandela. So digital literacy is part and parcel of normal lives right now. We need to be able to understand ourselves. For me, it's my story. Without the internet, I would not be here. I would not be able to speak or consolidate myself in confidence when I raise these issues. It's important we refabricate our education system, that we change our own mindsets, because the digital institutions will be built by us and us only. Because in the end, who will solve Africa's dilemmas? Yes, we will. It is up to us. In 2011, the Arab Spring, young people showed the power of the internet. That is when you localize something to create change. It was the birth of digital democracy. We could see how powerful the internet is in empowering a generation. Now, governments and institutions are fearful of how powerful the internet is, especially when it is localized in a very personal sense to make change. After that, we saw issues about internet governance, problems like internet shutdowns in my country during elections, censorships. You become fearful. You pass through a vicious cycle of self-censorship, and I'm speaking from a personal experience. But in the end, I'm speaking in Africa's digital dilemma for the purpose of building strong African digital democracies. So even if I speak about these challenges, we need to be the ones who are vocal to do this, aren't we? I would like to welcome Ernest. Ernest, you are from the technical community, and the technical community works hand in hand with government to implement some of the challenges we face. Example, censorship, internet shutdowns. What do you think can be done to mitigate these errors? Welcome. Come here.
Hello, everyone. Wow, that's an open invite. All right, thank you. Okay, my name is Ernest. Yeah, I'm from the Affordable Internet Access, currently chairing the affordability of internet solutions. Yeah. So hello, you can get me now. Oh, thank you. So there are two aspects there. I think number one, it draws back to the policy dimension, because for everything to work, we must look at the current policy which is at hand and how best is it working. So we spoke of challenges to do with localization. How do we solve the issue of localization? Number one is, how can you make a policy that does not speak to your people and you apply it to your country? Automatically, it should not work. Okay. So what am I saying? I've seen this. I think that was 2 years ago. I participated in type of a session like this. Someone wanted to come up with a culture, with a system that was not part of that particular industry, and they wanted to implement it. Of course, it will work, okay? But chances are that it will not work according to the level that you want it to work, because there are certain aspects that are missing in terms of the regional diversity around that group, and also the host, in this case, the country which you're supposed to implement it. So policy speaks much. It's the brain of everything. You want to solve the issues of access, you want to solve the issues of digital, it's all about policies. So the right policy direction is the one which can shape all these dilemmas, I would say so. For example, I would say Africa to be consuming our own content. I attended a session, there's something which you said, let me bring it to you very quick. It's of someone from Nigeria. Hello, I don't know who it is, Mike. So here it is. Our content from Africa going outside, then coming back, and we're paying for it. Does it make sense? Colonialism. You are right. So now, how do we stop this from happening? Of course, we cannot say, no, we're going to be regulating to say, no, no content comes from outside and everything. It will never work. They will say now you're splintering the content, which outside is going to be a problem. But I think what the best solution can be in this case is that the policy implementation at that stage must be well thought from the locality of the hosts, the people who are participating in these content dimensions. Okay? Like that, we're going to solve a lot of issues to do with localizing our own content, and also benefiting from what we are doing as a country and or Africa. Because these are some of the challenges that I've been seeing every time is that I wonder, our own African content, our friends are making millions and they're also selling us and they're making a profit, and Africa is remaining behind. And they've been saying, oh, this one was even made in America, but it was South African, by the way. It was Ghanaian. It doesn't make sense. So same with other change, which comes with where I come from, the technical background and everything. Today, I give you, all of you, how to drive. Are you going to say that you've got connectivity? The answer is no. So policy dimension, very important. We need to ensure that the policy speak to the grassroots, it speak to our nation, and also it speak in all sectors. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I saw you reiterated the importance of policy. It's key because policy has to be as inclusive as possible. And one of the factors and the pillars of the internet is decentralization. Decentralization informs inclusivity, where everyone has a chance to be heard when policy is made. Speaking of the role of government, Kenya is doing great in that angle. We see that they have recognized elections, digital elections, as a critical part of infrastructure. We are joined by Valerie from Kenya, who will try to give us further context on the matter. Valerie, are you there?
Yeah, Carson, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hey, hello. Please
Hi.
begin with what is your digital dilemma? I missed you.
I think a lot has been spoken in terms of the splinter net, what we're seeing about the Great Firewall with the Chinese. So I think I would like to bring in a different angle. Having worked in policy, part of civil society, and now in the private sector, I think we should look at what can we learn about what China and Russia are doing, because we do not agree with the approach in terms of what you said on information, inclusivity, but what can we learn? The reason why China even sees the need to have their own technological companies is because they do have the numbers. They have the numbers to use the technology that they use in their country. So how then can we learn as Africans from this? Just like what Mr. Hakim said yesterday, Africa has the numbers. Therefore, we are able to create our own digital journey to move forward as Africans. And I like what you asked about what Kenya is doing. So I'll just speak on 3 points. Number one, as in Africa, we see the advantage of diversity. So we have the Francophone Africa, we have the Anglophone, and we also have part of Africa that has Spanish speakers and Portuguese as well. So therefore, it means that we have a plethora of knowledge and information that we can tap into even moving forward in terms of digital policy. The second thing, especially now working in the private sector, I've had the privilege to work with a lot of startups here in Africa and globally as well. And one thing I'll tell you is that there's a lot of innovation happening in the continent. You will see there's a startup by a lady who's currently based in the UK, but she's from Nigeria, and it's called SensePrint. So it's a startup in terms of financial technology where they're able to then allow payments to be sent abroad from Nigeria to countries like UK and US. And you asked specifically about Kenya. Now we are seeing M-Pesa has moved on and evolved to form what you're calling the global virtual pay card. So previously we'd have issues of Africans saying they're no longer able to work online because maybe PayPal is delaying their payments. Now we have a homegrown, sort of like a continent-grown application, which is a global virtual pay that can actually help to have those online payments done. So again, it ties down to the issue of what is Africa doing with their numbers, with their diversity, and with their workforce as well. Kath, I saw you're going to do a panel on the workforce for Africans, and I think this is a great place to look at as well. You also see the issue of health innovation that's happening in Africa. So lastly, the other thing about the global digital policy journey for Africa is the issue of access and connectivity. And I liked what the Malawian officials spoke about yesterday about how they're able to do broadband coverage for each district. Again, coming back to the issue of what are we doing in a local context? What are we doing for each African country depending on the problems that they do have? So we already have the Universal Service Fund, but now we are tapping more into the public-private partnerships that we can also get. So I think with this point, we are well on track to have a global digital policy for Africa that will set us apart at the global level. Yeah, thank you, Carson.
It's fantastic. Thank you very much for your remarks. And it's good that she showed us a new way to see things and mentioned M-Pesa. It shows how Africa is complete. That's empowered use. M-Pesa was born in Africa. Most of the mobile transactions are in Africa, but the profits are not coming in yet. That is a dilemma. But in the end, we can learn a lot from what others are doing with collaborative efforts and multilateral corporations. And we have a special guest here who'd like to speak. His name is Francesco from the EU Commission, who will guide how we can use multilateralism to build more stronger institutions. Please welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm definitely now. Oh, it's on? Yeah, it seems it's on. Definitely now the average of age is substantially skyrocketing with my intervention. But thanks for the opportunity. And I'm very happy to be here at the African Internet Governance Forum. As Gabriel was saying, I work at the European Commission in the team responsible for strategic partnership with Africa. And I mainly work on digitalization issues. And I just want to reassure you, first of all, you guys have talked about Africa's dilemma, where you're not the only ones. The EU has also had its own dilemmas. We have in 2015 launched a strategy to create and establish a digital single market in the EU. And we have launched, and this process only started in 2015, so it's not something that dates back that long. And we have, in this sense, managed to put forward a series of pieces of legislation aimed at harmonizing the market in the sphere of digital. And so I completely subscribe the intervention before when you guys were saying the importance, underlying the importance of policy for what concerns the digital affairs. And since 2015, there's been a lot of work at EU side, and we have extended and worked towards a new strategies that looks also at working with our partners at a global level. And it is in this context that we have launched in just last year our global gateway strategy, which also includes a chapter on digitalization. And is our way, the way we intend to work with other partners around the world on various issues, spanning from health, transport, infrastructure, digital, education, and so on and forth. And in the context of the latest European Union African Union Summit, which took place last February in Brussels, amazing event. There was we launched the first actual package, and it is focusing exactly on the African continent. And with this package, we aim to leverage around 150 billion investments in various areas, including digital. And maybe just since the two, I noticed the two parts where that really the dilemma you were discussing were mainly focusing on two areas. One was policy and governance, and the other was infrastructure. And this is exactly where we are looking at. So the idea we are already working on with our partners is to focus on these two areas. On governance, we're working a lot within the EU African Union Data Flagship Initiative on how to promote data convergence in the continent. And we are processing other initiative in the sphere of data governance, and other initiative will go on. And on infrastructure, we had started a discussion, and it was announced during the summit that we intend to, together with our African partners, and in the context also of the initiative, the PIDA initiative by the African Union, to really look into investments in digital infrastructures. And we're looking mainly on fiber optic cables that were mentioned before, satellite connectivity projects, and submarine cable projects, and sustainable green data centers. So this is where the EU is looking at. And basically, what my message would be tonight, today, on this on this panel here, is that the idea of the EU is a bit with this global gateway. We would like to really maybe help trying to and question ourselves on our own dilemmas, but also help our African partners in brainstorming how to solve those dilemmas, which it is true, it comes from, as mentioned, it is something that comes from the continent as such, so from yourselves. So this was, I really thank you for having listened to me. And I'm here for the 3 days, so guys, if you want to have chat or reach out, I would love to meet you all. So please feel free to reach out to me when you see me in the corridors, if you'd like to have a chat. Thank you, Gabriel.
Thank you so much for your points. Actually, the Global Gateway and the EU is working with a framework of what has already been established by the African Union, right? There is already the African Union's building blocks, so to speak. So in terms of digitization, I think the main issue that we've got to know is that we're talking about the building blocks on digital transformation, right? Africa itself as a continent may not be, and I'll be quite controversial, systematically ready for the kind of digitization. And it's therefore naive to look at the continent as one, whereas the continent is made up of 56 different, very different countries. And so just in light of this, could you just shed a little bit more on your strategy, the Global Gateway, I mean, with 300 billion euros set out for this project, we've got a lot to discuss. My main areas are around sustainable business models, sustainable partnerships with relevant organizations that are working towards the type of on-ground rollout for customers and companies that is going to be able to drive this kind of change.
Thanks for the questions. So the yes, of course, we are working together hand in hand with the African Union also on this. So many other areas and topics. On digitalization, of course, we have looked at the what the African Union has done, and we looked at the 2030 digital transformation strategy. And yes, the idea is not the idea is to give support and to work together on as partners that we are, the EU and the African continent. And this partnership has been stressed over and over, and it is as strong as ever. And you could see it from the success and the high level presence that this European Union African Union summit managed to deliver, and also the ambitious declaration that was provided in the context of the European Union African Union Summit, which includes commitments in the field of digitalization. How are we going to do it? That's the other odd questions that you asked. It is true. I mean, what you say, that working with Africa as a continent needs to take into consideration the nuances of the different countries that are part of the continent. And in the field of digitalization, you might see that there are ways, countries which are maybe more advanced than others in various digital sectors, and in a more developed digital economy. This is obviously taken into consideration, but what the EU really wants to stress and is not as much as advanced or not advanced a country is, but rather on the way of that this digital economy push and advancement is bringing forward, is brought forward. And so what we really care about is that whatever it is, the actual projects that will be implemented, is that this supports in clear position that we stand by, not just like the open internet, the unfragmented, so fight against any sort of fragmentation of the internet, the digital rights sphere, high privacy and data protection standards, and strong cybersecurity, provisions, let's say. So this is I try to a bit answer your question. I don't know if it's if I hit the mark or not.
Yeah, you did. That's great. I'm just curious, on that note, do you have any idea on what the projects are going to be coming up?
Sure. So we have worked on, as said before, we're looking into two macro groups. One is the governance policy area. The other one is the infrastructure ones. On the governance policy, we will try to. There should be some announcement coming soon on a project on data, and hopefully by early next year. But in any sense, yes, we are working towards that specific area for governance. For the infrastructure process, we are advancing quite well. We are preparing, we launch internal project teams at EU level, and then we will start a bit reach out and work together with our African counterparts to really identify the projects that we would like to support. And this will be done in line with obviously the PDAPAP pipeline, PDAPAP 2 pipeline. It will be done in line with the European Investment Bank project identification process, and of course the series of studies that we have launched, and we hope to get the results by the end of the year. So on actually project identification and infrastructure side of things.
Thank you. That was a perfect answer. Thanks. I'm just going to really cuss on for a second and open the floor up for questions to any of our panelists or comments before we wrap down the session.
Okay, great. What we have heard is that the internet is for all. So if there's a crisis, the internet, it's Africa's dilemma. It is a dilemma for the world. I would like to welcome Catherine from Tanzania to speak on the solutions of how we could solve the dilemmas we face using connectivity. Catherine, please welcome if you could just keep it short and sweet, 2 minutes. And then we will have closing remarks from all of our panelists. And you all, anybody?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So this is completely off guard. So I'm just going to speak about what we do in terms of connectivity and how are we assisting in bridging the digital divide. So my name is Catherine Kimambo. I am from Tanzania. I founded an NGO called African Child Project, and we've been working on bridging the digital divide in terms of school connectivity, making sure how are we reaching to every school in rural areas, because after the pandemic we saw that there's a need for connectivity in schools, and mostly in Tanzania rural schools. So at first when we started out, it was only me and a team of partners from University of Oslo, basically their foundation. So we started to see how can we have every voice on the table in terms of connectivity, because we already saw that access is not the only problem. There's a problem of devices, there's a problem of digital skills, and there's also, we wanted to know how can we have every voice on the table. So that's where we started the marathon, we call it marathon, of bringing everyone to speak together on how can we have connectivity as a subject, and how can we have every voice on the table. So we spoke with government agencies, the ones that deal with connectivity. We spoke with the Universal Communication Access Funds in Tanzania. We spoke to people who curate contents for schools. We spoke to people who give out skills, the likes of Microsoft, Cisco. There's also different curriculums on how we as a team could provide digital skills. So we spoke also with mobile network operators, because we also wanted a multi-stakeholder approach. So we saw it fit that we don't leave mobile network operators aside. So it took us a year to have a contract signed and a pilot of 10 schools. And up until now, we are on phase 3, and we are going to connect 400 schools. All these schools are in rural areas. So if you guys know Tanzania, the geographical location is just so huge. There's like 26, if not 30 regions, and traveling from one region to the next takes a day or two, depending on the road facilities and all infrastructures and all that. So we are trying to be innovative around how we conduct the program. If I'm out of time, please tell me. We are trying to be very innovative on how we conduct our programs, since we know the geographical location on how Tanzania is. So we work with universities as our regional competence centers. We recruit students from universities to offer digital skills to communities or schools on the ground, especially ICT teachers. We work with organizations on the ground, because we ourselves cannot implement countrywide. So we work with NGOs on the ground. We call them digital friends. So we have all the manuals, all the scripts on how we want implementation to take place on the ground. We approach digital friends, organizations, the NGOs on the ground on how to implement together with us. So the best, one of the best practices have been the digital friends in the regional competence centers. And I think this time around, the biggest impact has been the funding that we've gotten from the mobile network operators, I would say Vodacom Tanzania Foundation. In terms of, we have schools in place, we have skills, we have everything, and then devices missing. So the biggest impact has been to still we have been able to bridge that gap, I would say, by 2%, because still 10 computers per school, a school has 1,000 students, is still not enough, but I think we are halfway there. So that's what we do in Tanzania.
Yeah, that's how we could really solve Africa's digital dilemma, by innovations from her. Yeah, we're almost out of time, but we'll take questions at this time, and each one of us can tell us your dilemma. We solve it. Please, sir, welcome right here. Yeah, this is an open space. Everybody speaks. It's Young Africa speaking.
Thank you. Thank you, Young Africans, for giving me an opportunity. Just a quick one. I wanted to give a background in the dilemma that we're talking about. I believe we're about to move away from the dilemma space. We're coming to a situation where our parents are the ones who came out with no computers, even after their education. And some of them met their computers. My age, we met computers just after teenage. I first looked at a computer 20, somewhere there. And then I've got my younger brothers and those of our children. They are playing with my cell phone. He's 2 years old, but he's able to open, play games on my phone. So my point, the leaders that we have been having, the leaders that we have in our current setup, do not really understand or use computers well. So they don't understand where we are going or where America or Europe is. So I believe our generation, together with especially the youth that I'm with here, we understand exactly where we want to go. And this dilemma will be out of the way if we can only work together. One of the things is what she has just said, I was going to say it as well, especially in Malawi, because I'm Malawian. We need to ensure that from next year, not even, okay, maybe from this year, not even from next year, from this year, let's ensure that each and every primary school at least have a computer for each and every class. Because at least in Tanzania, there's progress there. I don't think there's progress in this country yet. Secondary school, same thing. Universities, at least they're able, because they have to write their projects through the computer. So the point is, from primary school, let's ensure that there's network, there's at least a computer in all those schools. Even teachers, they actually go out to print somewhere else. They're failing to print within their school. So it's very painful. So I would want to work together with each and everyone. It's good that this is happening in Malawi, and hopefully everyone who is Malawian here can take it from here, that let's push our government and all those other African countries, let's push our governments so that computers are learned from primary school, not from secondary school or from university only. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I think we're just left with one thing. We've spoken a lot here. So I'm just going to ask my colleagues for Africa. Yeah. What do you hope to achieve right from today? Just, you can say just one sentence. Like,
I think in terms of achieving something for Africa would be achieving digital transformation in Africa, where we get the right companies building the right products, African innovations that are going to lead, that are going to include all sectors of our society and lead Africa to its exponential in terms of technological capital development.
A continent very staunch in its stance against internet fragmentation and supports an open and safe and trustworthy internet.
Nice. Kathy.
So I don't think solution fit all. I think every country I think every country has a way that they can innovate around internet, around technology. So you shouldn't feel pressured on what other countries are doing. See the opportunities in your country, and see how you can leverage from what is within your country and capacity.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so first, allow me to say that every day in rural areas, in rural communities, without access to the internet is a lost opportunity and it's a dilemma. So I call upon all of you to be frontiers of broadband connectivity, and we must support each other in this challenging and exciting path as we transform our cities and our lives. So I envision an Africa which is digitally transformed. Yes.
Nice, nice. So I think we know that we have where to start from. Yeah, we have where to start from. So it's now in our hands, nationally, regionally, continentally. Let's stop pointing fingers at each other. So and so has not done this, but let's start the solutions. Kathy talked about a solution. Start a solution too. So we have one colleague from Ethiopia, Ethiopian youth. They will be hosting the Global IGF this year. So we just want to hear from her just in 2 minutes, and that's it. Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone.
Hello, everyone. I came here. It was supported by UNECA, and I'm supported by UNECA because it hosted the 2020 African Girls Concord Initiative. And even though we weren't lucky enough to do it with other countries of the continent, we were also connected with them through online because it was hybrid. So that was one of the opportunities that I got, even though there aren't many. So I believe that the African Girls Concord Initiative is now a new initiative under the name Connected African Girls, like spoken by our team yesterday. So I think that for a more connected Africa, that we need this kind of initiative for young girls or the youth to be connected more to this kind of initiative. So this is kind of a start of digitalization. So I think it should be more worked on the younger or on the youth or the younger age gap, and also including as said, the infrastructures. I think the youth is the resource that we should work on.
Thank you very much. And before that, just look at this. Just look how beautiful this is. 4 young, powerful women. This is how we solve Africa's dilemma. So thank you, everybody, for making it happen. And it's on us. For me, my takeaway is not being vocal enough to change. We can make change. So thank you so much for participating. Clap for the beautiful panelists.
Hi, everyone. So there's lunch that's going to be happening at the other side of the
Hello? Hello?